So, morning everybody. My name's Langeni Matthew. I'm from WWF Tanzania as a GIS specialist, a developer, and really I'm excited to be in this Eye on Earth conference. And my task here is to introduce Mr. Charles Brigham from Israel. I think Earth. Earth Systems for Research Institute, I think. He'll be presenting about applied systems of systems approach to the agenda to the 2030 agenda, and really impressed about this one because there is this GEOS system of systems, which I think it will be nice to know more about this one and how we can apply, especially for me in conservation organization and other who are joining online. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Everyone hear me just fine? Welcome. I'm glad to be here for Eye on Earth, and I'm glad you guys were able to come to the session. I hope that Eye on Earth has been fruitful for everybody here. What I'm going to talk about today is an applied systems approach to the 2030 agenda, and in this approach, we're really looking at what has been done. We're not looking necessarily at systems themselves. We're looking at the approaches that have succeeded since the inception of some of the different engagements that Esri has had, its partners have had around the 2030 agenda. So I'm really talking about part of Esri's vision as a company to support the SDGs. Now, Esri is the largest GIS company in the world. It's close to 50 years old. We have been working steadfastly in improving the ability of our users to maximize their reach in terms of geospatial information. And it's important to note that that evolution of GIS has taken many different has had many different stages over time to evolve where it is today. If you look at the work that the GIS community is doing, we're already working towards the SDGs in some way or another. And I would argue that everyone in this conference, in some way or another, is working towards the SDGs in some way, whether it's a goal, a target, an indicator. So this is just illustrating that the GIS community plays a vital role in SDGs and showing some of the work that the community has done on the SDGs over time, and even before that, for the MDGs. Now, this work has been done very slowly in some cases, and very rapidly in others. So I want to just step back and say that the SDGs are going to require us to think differently about things, but also to evolve. And here I'm just really talking about the stages of producing a Madison point. We didn't just invent the Madison point. We are banging on rocks for a very long time. And we're going to be doing that for the SDGs, whether we think we are not or otherwise. So we need to be learning by doing. And that's the main point here. This is an illustration on the right of a child's depiction of where we are on the planet. Now that child's understanding of where they are evolves over time. It's a similar concept. And it's also the similar approach that we've taken at Esri to understand how our users are going to be interacting with the SDGs and sustainable development overall, and how they have been over the years that we've been supporting them. So we've been building all kinds of different tools to explore the value of what we can bring to our user community. And I'm just showing some of these tools that we've evolved upon over time to understand where the needs lie within the different organizations that we serve. And these are illustrations of things that we've developed this is showing some of the SDG metadata API. The slide before was around some client-side JavaScript applications that are available on GitHub for the SDGs, just to explore what things our users are interested in the context of the SDGs to help them amplify their work around the different goals, targets, and indicators. So we've been taking some of these learnings and trying to translate those into scalable solutions within the application environment that Esri provides within its capabilities. And this here is just illustrating some of the stories that have been taking place around the SDGs. We've done a number of different stories with our users, and our users have generated their own stories around the SDGs. Some of these have been driven by different organizations that we work with, and the number of them are public and still expanding today. There's also the analytic work. This is illustrating proximity to within 2 kilometers of roads in Kenya, but a lot of these analytic outputs are available. There's a lot of work that's been done around a lot of the geospatial indicators, and I would argue that a lot of those geospatial indicators, whether it's proxies or the indicator itself, are available, but not in a way that's accessible to the SDG community itself. The geospatial community has capabilities to understand and compute these tasks, particularly within some of the technology that we provide. But we are here to help our users understand how they can amplify their work in GIS and contribute to the SDGs at the same time. So one of our main goals is to build tools that these users can easily integrate into their everyday workflows to share to the SDG community, to the development community, to the national offices that they are relevant to, whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's a development organization, whether it's a GIS company, whether it's a specific academic exercise. And through all of these different exercises, we realize that to do this effectively and to really realize the vision of the blueprint of the SDGs, we understood very early on that GIS provides a framework for understanding the SDGs and made a commitment to the development community some time ago as the SDGs in 2015 to support exercises around the SDGs. So we've embarked on hundreds of exercises within our user community on their own SDG work. And through understanding where their needs lie, we decided to make a commitment to support different large and small exercises. One I'm focusing on today is called the Federated System for the SDGs. And that is really a effort spearheaded by the UN to bring partners in and maximize the use of modern GIS capabilities. And those modern GIS capabilities, if you're not familiar with, all involve a WebGIS pattern. So within this effort to build this federated system for the SDGs, we've now seen the emergence of open SDG data hubs, which we've facilitated the development of. Now, this has come out of numerous demands by the user community, as well as national statistics offices and other ministries. And it's really outlining the bullet points you see here and focusing on federating data to provide greater understanding on progress of the goals, empowering countries. This is a country-owned, country-led exercise, allowing them the ownership of that data through a WebGIS pattern. No longer are you sharing files, you're sharing services. It's an interoperable, open, standards-based approach to the SDGs that leverages a system of systems technology application environment. And this allows a lot of different unique
collaboration to happen. So we started to kind of foster this idea with the UN Statistics Division, and I want to just express this was something that frankly was never tried before. So we started this federated system for SDGs as a research exercise, which in some ways still is a research exercise and may remain that way for some time, but it's growing significantly. And within the statistical community and the geographic community, we presented a lot of this work, meaning the group. So the UN Statistics Division, other UN agencies, Esri, other technology companies started to extend the reach of some of the work that we're doing to others unfamiliar with it in the geospatial community and the statistics community to see the value, whether there was value, whether it was going to work at all, feasible, whether it was feasible. And fast forwarding to today and looking towards the way forward, you can see here illustrated that there is interest in moving this forward within the geospatial information management community, which has been supportive of the work that the consortium of partners has been doing on the Federated System for SDGs. And GGIM has now been interested in trying to figure out ways to endorse this concept further. We took a lot of these learnings also to the Statistical Commission, which also found interest in the work that we're doing and outlined some of the work to be taken forward. And in knowing that at Esri, we realized that we couldn't do it alone early on. And we had started discussions before knowing this with other partners to bring in other capabilities. So as this started to gain momentum, we brought in other partners to figure out where their unique talents lie, figure out where national governments' needs were, and we are now iterating over that partnership and those needs. This slide is just illustrating some of the partners that are involved. It's actually a small snapshot of the core partners. There are a lot of other smaller partners that are not illustrated here, but some of the broader capabilities are obvious things. You know, we're moving towards the cloud. We're trying to utilize modern GIS capabilities through enterprise GIS. We're trying to maximize media and communication around the SDGs. So what technology and community capabilities do we need to bring to the table, and ensure that the national and regional and international community has the right capacity building capabilities to leverage the work and deliver it on their own in a lot of ways. So I'm going to step back and just go into a quick overview of what we're providing to this in a very tactical sense. But essentially, it's our standard technology, the desktop, ArcMap and ArcGIS Pro. If those aren't familiar with desktop, it's significantly advanced to leverage cloud and WebGIS. It also, within this exercise, the work is leveraging ArcGIS Online, which is a cloud-based GIS that allows for a lot of unique capabilities, particularly within sharing of services, interoperability, open standards. And this has been extremely powerful in deploying some of these open data hubs very quickly in a matter of months. The pieces between that national governments are finding unique and valuable are the grouping and collaboration structures within the environment that we provide. So I can share data and information securely between different groups. I can share information openly between different groups. And I can configure the type of users in those groups. So that configurability component of this allows for speed to value. And what we're seeing is the configuration of these environments becoming unique, but very rapid in terms of countries' deployment of them. So in this case, we also extend other capabilities to the governments that we're providing the technology to. So this includes our server technology for analytics and sharing of massive geospatial data sets. This is a specific, unique tool to Esri that people leverage a lot in the enterprise GIS community. And these technologies are really allowing a lot of things to happen. Some of the things we're exploring right now are Earth observation data within the exercise and providing a very close link within the Earth observation space to traditional official statistics practices around census, and then allowing the National Statistics Office to replicate their portal, to share their portal metadata and data across ministries, and allow external communities a way to develop their own portals. So this supports some of the connections between organizations and allows different departments to share portal information. There's already examples of this at the community level that Esri's been supporting for years. It just hasn't been leveraged necessarily to its potential in the development community and the national government. In some of the traditional government ministries, of course, enterprise GIS has been leveraged. Some of the, if you think of spatial data infrastructure and those communities, but in the non-traditional communities, like if you look at National Statistics Offices, you won't find that. Within the platform, there's a lot of different capabilities. Quickly going through those are some of the things around content. So we provide a curated atlas of the world called the Living Atlas. There's a massive amount of information in that Living Atlas. There's other maps and apps in the online environment that are accessible. This is just illustrating some of those. There's apps that bring those maps and apps to life. Those maps to life and content to life. And all of this information is organized in a shared catalog that people can access through a portal. Now, if you look at how WebGIS is growing, to give you an idea of how fast it's growing, if you look at the top 50 cloud providers in the world, we're among the top 50 cloud providers in the world. We're not a cloud provider, but if you think in the context of geospatial information, that's a massive amount of data. And so if you put that into perspective of how we're understanding goals, targets, and indicators, there's a lot of untapped talent, information, capability there that we feel the development community, the governments can leverage already. And that's really what they have been doing. So all of this has culminated within the partners, within Esri, within the foundations that are part of this, to this open data portal for the SDGs and these SDG hubs that are emerging. So illustrated here is the UN data portal, but if you look at how it's being implemented, it's really to serve all the national government's needs. So as national governments report on the SDGs, they're able to report in a secure, interoperable, standards-based manner where they can share services to the UN hub or internally to UN staff members to understand that information. So if I'm a given government, I can share data securely to the UN. They can look at that information and provide feedback on that information internally in a secure environment that allows the right kind of collaboration to happen in a secure environment. They're not sharing files. The days of sharing Excel are done. Now, Excel is a great tool. We provide tools for Excel, and everyone will continue to use Excel. But in a secure environment, we're seeing a lot of evolution in the way people use and share information. And through web services, we've seen an extreme transformation in understanding of security, interoperability, and collaboration. So a lot of these hubs have emerged. If you look at the UN Open Data Hub site, you can see a snapshot of them, but that's not all of them. Within the Federated System for SDGs, SDG Hub exercise, there's a number of them exposed. Now, a lot of things are happening behind the scenes. Like I mentioned, in groups. So countries are sharing best practices in those groups. Countries are sharing data, they're sharing methods internally, whether it's between ministries or whether it's between governments. And that's happening as well. But that's not illustrated here because that's in a secure environment behind their firewall often, and their environments themselves. So it's really enabling a global SDG Open Data Hub. And that's what's emerged as of late. We've seen some really revolutionary work from FCSA. If you haven't seen their Open SDG Data Hub, I would urge you to look at that today or tomorrow and see the progress they've made. Now, this network of global data hubs has grown into a network now of hubs. So what we're now talking about is not just development data hubs, UN data hubs, national government data hubs. We're talking about community data hubs. We've had numerous conversations and implementations of community around the community data hub concept and implementations of those community data hubs. And they're now asking us, how can we provide information to national data hubs? Now that national governments are standing up their own open SDG data hubs, how can a conservation group, how can a humanitarian group share their data to these hubs? This is where we are. And we're talking to those groups to figure out how they can better interact, better share their work, and amplify their work in a given country. To give you an idea about how rapid this has happened, the implementation of these open SDG data hubs have taken a matter of months. Some countries are standing up their own open SDG data hubs in 2 months, some take longer, but nevertheless, it's happening, and this is at a pace relevant to the success and curation and collation of their own data and information. We started this exercise with the premise that if you are going to participate in this exercise, we are only going to talk about openly available data. We're not going to talk about anything else. If you bring your open data, bring the data that you want to share, and let's talk about whether we can explore these capabilities, whether they're valuable. And this is now transformed into a larger effort beyond Esri, obviously, and into a lot of different areas of focus. Progress continues. We're working on a lot of different things now, but we understand at the core, a lot of the work is focused around, things, things relevant to collecting data, official statistics practices, census, surveys, but also collecting geospatial data and generating the right views of that information. And sharing that information out, publishing it in the right way, publishing it using a service-based approach. And we're now asking more people that understand this community, particularly national mapping agencies and kind of core Eye on Earth members, to get involved, because there's the capabilities that they can bring to the table are vast. And we realize that the Eye on Earth community and other geographic communities already understand the WebGIS pattern and they can leverage this. So before moving into kind of what is an open SDG data hub, what does it look like, how do we feel and touch this information, get involved, become engaged in this effort. We know at Esri and the other partners in this exercise that technology is not enough, and we know that it'll involve people, process, and technology to get where we need to go. So without taking any longer, I want to bring a colleague of mine, Adam Pfister, to the stage to talk about and show what we're doing, what's going on, what does it actually look like. Adam?
Hello. Everybody doing okay? Yeah? Good morning? Yes? Well, it's my pleasure to thank you. So it's really is. It really is my pleasure to be able to highlight some of the great work that our member states are doing now. We've been able to work with them, like Charles mentioned, some at different levels. Some are very capable, have a lot of resources, and others don't. But what's great is that since everybody's working together, they can all share their experiences. So as we go through some of these examples, you'll notice there's a common theme across all of them as far as how sites are laid out, how layers are named, and that is very much by design. It's not prescribing that everybody needs to do it that way, but the community is really recognizing that they're sharing best practices. So I'd like to start just by highlighting what Palestine is doing. This is their open data site for the SDGs. You see at the top they have a nice banner image, and then they group their data sets around the different goals. And if you were to click on one of them, you could see data sets that are relevant just for that particular goal. In this case, we're looking at poverty. So indicator 1.2.1, which is the proportion of population living below the national poverty line. And this is a standard data set page. So you can see the basic outline and the boundaries of the layer. As you scroll down, you get information about that layer and the indicator itself. And then you can actually see the individual fields in the data set, which is very interesting. So if you wanted a quick view on national poverty for 2010, you get a little chart there, but you can also visualize it very quickly, a nice, easy thematic map. You can view the table itself. You can see all the fields and all the values. You can sort and filter this information. And then what's really great is you can download the information in a variety of formats. So if you'd like to take this data set into Excel, if you'd like to bring it into KML, you could certainly do that. If you are a developer, if you have developers on staff, or if you just want to share a live link to this data set, there are two formats available with GeoJSON and then GeoService format. So if you were including this in your own applications or you're sharing it to someone else and the data set changed or was updated, you're referencing it by a service. It's a services-based approach. So you don't need to worry about, do I have the latest copy of data? It would just automatically appear for you. And you can always go back and reference it from this source. So going back to the overview page, this data set, you can go directly for more information about it. You can even take this data set as a starting point and create your own web map. So these data sets are publicly available. If you're a researcher and you want to do some research information on this, you can see that the data set comes right in. I can have the same fields available to me, and I can really start to dive into the poverty data. So I can look at 2009, 2010, and 2011, and get different drawing styles, symbolize that information however I choose to. Right? We're looking at predominant categories. You can group these in a lot of different ways. So Mexico has done something also very similar. We're looking at their data set page for this information around indicator 3.1.2. And why I chose to highlight this is because there are over 25 years of information just in this one data set. So this would be a very good candidate to take and put into something like a story map and show change over time or show progress over time, right? And you can walk people through your message. So maybe the end user isn't going to be someone like a data scientist or someone who doesn't want to dive right into the details of the data, but they want to understand your message. You want to communicate to them that these areas in Mexico are doing great, these areas need work, and we can view that information over time. Sorry, I see some pictures. These are all, by all means, but we can share all these links for you too, and they're all available. So if I'm going too fast, don't feel like you need to snap too many pictures. So Senegal has taken another approach. They're actually translating this and making theirs available in French. And again, you'll see the information is organized by goals. And they have another little banner of how you can use this data. You can explore it, visualize, analyze it, put it into applications, share it out via the web. And then Philippines is another great example because they have national priorities just like every country does, right? So their first entry point for someone coming to the site is to show them data set grouped by those categories. Maybe this is by ministry, or maybe it's by however the country wants to show that. So if I wanted to look at population and social conditions, I just click on that, and then I see all the relevant data sets that are kind of cross-cutting across the goals. But if I were to go back, I can also get that same data set in a view by SDG. So if I know the goals, if I don't know the goals, I can still get to the relevant data sets. In this case, this poverty at the national level, it's the exact same one that we were just looking at. So you have a lot of different ways to categorize this, to share this for the different users that may be coming in. Ireland is another great example. They made a Census 2016 open data site that they call GeoHive. And then they took the same approach and actually made a SDG focused site. So the great thing about this is you can have one site, you can have 30 sites, and you can have pages that are all part of those sites, and you can link them all together as part of your own ecosystem. And then again, you choose what data is available, you choose what applications that you want to put out and make public. They've included data stories here at the top, story maps. They've got some pretty funny thumbnails here for their life on land. But I did want to highlight that their story maps are very well done. And this is a great example of how you take somebody through the message of the data, in this case, unemployment. As they go through their information, they're saying, you know, what is the national unemployment rate? Kind of where are we now? And this information, of course, Esri, we love maps, but it doesn't always need to be a map, right? We get it. It can just be pictures, it can be videos, you can embed charts. In this particular case, this is a map journal type of story map. So we have a side panel on the left and kind of a main stage on the right, and you can choose what elements go where. So they focus all the way down to the city level, and they look all the way, they focus all the way in Dublin and see, you know, where are we having problems? Where is unemployment like all the way down to the city? But I think what's really great is that at the end, they don't just kind of leave you hanging. They say, where are we going? What do we need to do next? And sometimes, in some cases, call to action. You know, click this button, go here, get involved, what have you. So these, we talked a lot about the member states and their individual hubs, but it's important to stress how they are not just disconnected, they are all connected. So Charles showed this example earlier about the UN's national SDG Data Hub, or global SDG Data Hub, sorry. So at sdg.org, if you were to go there now, this is exactly what you would see. And countries are beginning to share data sets into this org. And there's simply, it isn't a duplication of data. It isn't an extraction, transformation, or anything like that. They're simply sharing by clicking on a few buttons with the UN. The UN is reviewing it with them in a collaborative way. And then when everybody says it's great, they simply flick the switch and it comes into this environment. So if I know that I want to do a project around Ireland and their data sets, but I don't know where Ireland's SDG Data Hub is, right? But I know sdg.org, that's an easy to remember URL. I could come into here and just type Ireland, and then I would see information coming directly from Ireland's Open Data Hub. So if you notice, I highlighted that little username shared by SDG Ireland Curator. That is their own account for Ireland, right? Nothing is duplicated, it's simply linked by reference. So this is pretty powerful. So Ireland is one of a few that are beginning to share data in this way. Some are advanced, some are still ramping up, but you can see the end goal here. And this is a tremendous example of how countries can align to their national priorities and still align with the SDGs and eventually get to a point where everybody is sharing information in one easy to remember spot. So with that, I'll hand it back to Charles. Thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, we can certainly talk afterwards, and I can share the URLs with you.
So Adam gets to do the fun stuff, obviously. But I hope you saw some of the capabilities that the countries and different development organizations are leveraging. I'll just end with saying that the partners that we're working with, we are now agreeing and we have agreed on an approach to support the countries to 2030. So we are donating the technology to develop developing country. Every developing country can get the technology for free for a certain duration of time, several years. Many would ask, okay, what happens after that? Well, after that, they pay a fragment or what they can feasibly deal with until 2030. And that's the approach we're taking to this. We want no issues with technology in terms of achieving the SDGs. And that's our goal within this research exercise. It's been our goal from the beginning. So the partners that we bring into this have to make that commitment. And we're really looking for partners to help us make that commitment even stronger. So those that are listening on the web, those that are here today, please spread that message. Because as the private sector moves forward with their work, we need other people to amplify the type of effort that we're involved in here. And that's been one of the big things that we've been focused on in the events up until now, and Unearth and other events that we're all involved in. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you coming to the session, and I wish you a very fruitful rest of the week.
Thank you, Mr. Charles and your colleague. Time for questions. The first question, I think, is about looking at goal number 6, clean water. Then target 63, I think, it's about water quality. For example, in Africa, mostly Tanzania and Kenya, the regional program, we are looking on citizen science, looking on river health assessment. So how, for example, UNOS, the Israel can help to collect those information, for example, from the community to look on the river health assessment in contrast to investment happening in agriculture or other mining or whatever. Those are big challenges we have. So I think there is mini-SAS, but data collection and feeding, that's kind of, if there you have answer, or it's just a task too.
Yeah. I would, there's a number of ways, and Adam, please comment, but 2 things I'll say. One is, we've really been providing a lot of data to the community. One thing I want to mention is the Africa Geoportal. We are going to be releasing an Africa Geoportal with a wealth of information, which will have some of the data that you're referring to, available to everyone. That Africa Geoportal will be linked to the Open Sdg Data Hub. So if you're moving through the Open Sdg Data Hub and you're searching for data on specific to the SDGs, you can leverage, just like you saw the national government's portals, you can leverage the Africa Geoportal to tap into that information. The other thing I'll say is that some of our users also have within their internal databases information relevant to the goals. I won't specify that specific indicator, but water quality, water bodies, different characteristics of water bodies. We also have the coastal shoreline data set for the world that we released, and the ocean marine units data set that we released. Those are also very valuable information, but maybe to specifically get to what you're illustrating, we realize that as we can't do it alone. So what we're doing is building, and we have done this for the last 50 odd years, is built integrators for all types of technologies that may utilize and generate outputs on specific indicators. For example, the one you're referring to. So if you were in the last session, you heard about the Africa Data Cube. We're building an integrator for that. Whatever kind of platforms that pop up that people find value in, we want to collaborate and be part of in terms of their ability, those of users' ability to leverage our capabilities. Do you want to say any comment?
Another question?
Morning, Mantru Nyawade from Kenya. Thank you for the very informative presentation. I just have 3 questions, quick ones. The first one is, who do you see as the custodian of such a system for any government? The second would be, do you share the same, like you have country and regional offices, do you share the same vision with them? Because they're mostly perceived as software sellers, basically, at the regions. That's another thing. And then what are the system requirements to establish such a product?
So do you,
Internal to Esri, part of my job is to communicate what we're doing to the rest of Esri. So internal in Esri, we have our distributor network, we have 70 partners, 300. We have them here in the room. Part of it is an education campaign for Esri. So they understand this program, so they understand the nonprofit program, the different programs that we have within Esri. So part of it is an education campaign for all the 40-odd plus industries that we support, utilities, telecom, all the different industries, transportation, aviation, go down the line. So part of my job, and Adam's, is to educate the internal Esri teams doing a lot of the on-the-ground work in Kenya. The second thing is in the custodian side, none of this is Esri. This is the UN Statistics Division, this specific one. The other ones are national statistics offices. But what I was referring to in my talk was that the community hubs that are already available, that are already out there, that many people in the development community are not familiar with, the city hubs, the nonprofit hubs. Those are the people, operational on-the-ground work. They're interested in pushing their data into the different SDGs within governments, within the global reporting structure. That's where the conversation is getting very fascinating. And we're seeing a lot of momentum there. I think you had one other point. System requirements. Yes, system requirements. So it's a SaaS system. So you can deploy that in the cloud. If you have cloud infrastructure, but it's hybrid. So some governments have different requirements. It could be a hybrid approach, it could be on-site. The capability to deploy it is really up to the organization. And we see all kinds of constellations. Actually, there's multiple constellations in these examples. It's not just cloud-based. Sometimes it's in secure environments, sometimes it's a hybrid approach. So, and it's very light. This is a very light approach. It's a very light touch. And we want to maintain that approach in terms of this implementation of the technology. Thanks for the question.
thank you, Charles. I think that's the end of it. If you have some more questions, you can contact Charles and his colleague on the sideline. Thank you.